When Alister first approached me for the shoot, the references were things like a lot from the 80s, a lot of Susie Sue pitch discs, a lot of Strawberry Switchblade, so kind of that odd moment of kind of little girliness mixed with a dark side, so lots of polka dots and bows in the hair. There's a French photographer called Irina Ionesco, who I've always liked. I think her work's very interesting. So there was that, and then there was a sort of a much more street side to it, which was the hardness of the, the sort of King's Road punks, the late 70s, early 80s, with the really high Mohicans. There was a sort of interesting thing, he actually references from The Crazy Horse, so some of the Crazy Horse girls with polka dots projected on them. So there's a polka dot thing going on, and a mixture of this sort of low-tech projections and this rather sort of gothic Susie Sue, Strawberry Switchblade thing. So there was something definitely interesting there, but it was a little bit hard to grasp how best to approach it. So we started off in one direction, just trying to find our way through. And often on shoots it's a bit like that. You have a sort of vision in your head that you're following, but it's not until you start actually taking photographs and seeing what comes back that then you start to be able to reference back to the references you had, and to be able to see whether or not you're on course or whether or not you're completely going up a sort of blind path. For this particular shoot, the first stuff came out and it was daylight on black, and it looked very similar to the French photographer. I wasn't happy with that. I'm absolutely fine referencing whoever, and you can start off by as much literal referencing as you want, but then you have to take it somewhere else.
Nice, good, yeah, and again, very nice. Yeah, beautiful, good. Yeah, lovely, hold that. Sit down.
There's a whole range of different factors that automatically and immediately put themselves, make themselves very obvious to you. And because it's now, it's not then. So it's not, we're not in the 1980s. Lots of things have happened since, culturally and visually have happened since. So things automatically change.
And just glance down towards the floor with your eyes. Good, yeah. Yeah, good. Yep, good. Nice, good.
So we started so all the first day, I think, in the studio on black with daylight. But actually it was half of the first day. And then Alister said, didn't like the black, didn't feel the black. Could we have daylight behind the girls? So actually photograph them in contre-jour, so with the light coming from behind them from our big windows. And I followed him. And I think it's a good idea to follow. If somebody's got a vision, then you follow them, and you ask, and you try and understand what they're seeing. And that's always the joy of doing any of these shoots, is you're actually trying to understand what somebody else can see. I know what I can see, and I know what I desire. But actually when you're working with somebody, if it's Alister, you're trying to understand what they see. That's the excitement, that's the point of working with them. So we looked at the light coming behind, and it gave something nice and something odd and something delicate. And then the kind of London punk street thing was starting to give way to a much more refined New York studio. So you felt that if you looked out of the window, you wouldn't see London streets, you'd see New York. So we knew we liked that, we knew it felt good, but we weren't quite sure how to actually articulate that.
That's another one.
Yeah, very nice, hold that. Do that again. Yeah, very nice. Looking a little bit higher with your eyes now. A bit more kind of actually length in your legs is good. Yeah, that's yeah, good. Nice. That's yeah, the reach. Yeah, good. Good. Don't move, hold on. Throw your hands right up the air in front of you, both of them. Good, yeah. Both of them, good, yeah. Nice.
So the first day was spent really trying to find something. Then the second day happened, And in the second day, we started off with a backlit, and it again just wasn't feeling right, and we pushed and pushed and pushed and basically turned the models upside down, inside out.
Good, stronger in face, good, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Nice, good. Yeah, hold that. Right, head towards now. Yeah, good. Yeah.
And at one point we looked out the window and thought, well, let's just try going out into the street. Now the streets around SHOWstudio where we're shooting are actually quite Dickensian. They're not very modern looking. They're old London. And I thought, well, I haven't actually been out in the street for a long time photographing, and this feels fresh and different. And the images that came back straight away felt right. The other thing that happened at that point is a new model came into the shoot. So Alexia, who was found as a street casting, so she's not from model agency. She was incredible. She's one of these girls who you see in the street, and when they're in front of your camera, they bring a whole world.
Good, yeah. Yeah, good. Yeah. Good, yeah, good. Yeah, nice. Yeah, hang on to one of the railings. Yeah, good. Yeah. Fab, hold that. Yeah. Right, good. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, good. Yeah, good. Nice. Good, yeah, 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 good. Very nice, hold that. Head around that way now. Good, nice, yeah. Lifting the dress up still. Back your arms again. Yeah, okay. And down you come now. Carefully, good, yeah.
So the shoot finished on the second day with about 5 images I liked, and probably about 9 images I didn't like. And it wasn't a story there. There just wasn't a story in the whole of the shoot. So I asked Alister and I asked David James, the art director, to have another day shooting. And so we came back and we shot on a Sunday.
But it's mega. I mean, it is amazing. Right. Yeah. It's such a...
The other thing I realised very quickly is the light that I'd seen on that last end of shoot was bright sunlight on brick, and it was beautiful because it carves up the architecture and makes it into geometry. So what is a sort of street photograph changes and becomes almost like a sort of set of composition, or sort of composition of shapes. And we aimed to shoot on one Sunday, and absolutely by chance it had been, it was a beautiful, clear, sunny day with the light as sharp and clear as you can imagine it, carved up the architecture of Mayfair, turned it into Ansel Adams and Yosemite, and all of a sudden you've got a different shoot happening in front of you. The whole thing changed incredibly.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, good. Lovely. Don't move your body at all now. It's very nice. Beautiful. Hold that.
The reason to say all this is it's a history of a shoot that starts off in one way but couldn't have ended further from where we first started.
City, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's good. That's good. That's it. Yeah, good. Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, okay, good.
In a way, so face is kind of stiff and the focus is different.
Yeah, nice, good. That's it, good.
Been working for 30 years or so, so I started working really about 1979. So I've been working for a long time, and of course fashion has gone through lots of cycles. So you do often find yourself referencing yourself, which is a kind of odd feeling, but I don't mind it, to be honest. I think it's just part of trying to understand. If I took pictures in a certain way back in 1981, I don't see any reason not to reapproach photography in that way. What I thought was interesting is it took me back to pure photography in the sense of it's just me, a 35mm camera, and no lights, just daylight. I thought that was interesting. And it took me back to my initial love of photography. So when I first started looking at the history of photography, and you first start trying to understand, you know, how somebody like Ansel Adams or Paul Strand or, you know, Minor White or any of those guys, you know, looked at the world and trying to understand that. It was quite an interesting photographic journey, which started off a lot more contemporary, and actually went back quite far back in the history of photography, which was interesting. But again, it's, you know, all these shoots are journeys, and I think the journey we went on with this particular shoot is interesting.
I think that's it.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's really, yeah.